A mother black bear is looking for something suitable for her cubs. This is their first ever trip to the seaside. In a few hours, the tide will return. So they must keep up with Mum. Here's something tasty. Crabs. Big crabs can give a nasty nip, so it's best to start off with smaller ones. During spring, 3/4 of the bear's food comes from the beach. But now, this family is not alone. An adult male. He is double her size, and they're in his territory. The cubs know that call. It's time to head for safety. Bears have poor eyesight, but their sense of smell is acute, and the male has detected intruders. He knows exactly which tree they are in. If the cubs stay up there, they'll be safe, but they're losing precious feeding time. For now, he's content to leave his scent mark. A warning note for trespassers. The family moves on. For the cubs, lunch today will have to be a takeaway. The tide comes in, and within minutes, feeding time is over for another day. And wave power creates towering fortresses like these cliffs in the Arctic, home to tens of thousands of breeding seabirds. The faces of the cliffs are accessible only from the air and have plenty of nooks and crannies for those that can get there. But to feed, seabirds must still master the ocean world beyond. A puffin. He's a fisherman and a father. He has a mate for life. Both share the burden of raising their week-old chick, their puffling, who needs 5 square meals a day. the parents alternate fishing trips. It's Dad's turn. When fish stocks are low, puffins must fly as much as 50 kilometers out to sea to reach the good fishing grounds. Once there, they plunge into another world. Good fishing spots are hard to come by, and they have company. Guillemots. Like the puffin, their wings are short and good for diving. Puffins can hold their breath for over a minute and dive as deep as 40 meters. A catch! But it's a long way home. After an exhausting round trip of almost 100 kilometers, this puffin's nearly made it. But there are pirates on this coast. Arctic skuas. All around, returning parents are being robbed. The skuas' long, raked-back wings make them faster and more maneuverable. Puffins must choose their moment wisely. A near miss. A last desperate burst of speed, and it's made it. safely home after a 3-hour round trip. Where his patient partner is waiting. Today, their puffling will eat. But where fish numbers are in decline, many puffins now find it hard to get enough food for their chicks. In the changing seas of today, it can be even harder to be a successful puffin parent. And in the eastern United States, many rivers contain crayfish. Like crabs, they have a hard protective shell, and they have particularly powerful pincers as well. The queen snake, however, eats crayfish and nothing else. But not just any crayfish. It's very selective. Crayfish, as they grow, shed their armour. Every 3 to 4 weeks, a split appears across the back of its shell. The old shell hinges away, and the crayfish hauls itself out and expands its body, which is soft. It's now that the snake has its chance. A newly molted crayfish looks much the same, but it gives off different chemicals that the snake can detect in the water with its tongue, and from some distance away. It can swallow this crayfish because, since it's newly molted, it's as soft as a boiled egg. Australia is a fascinating place for any naturalist. It's a land full of astonishing creatures. From kangaroos to echidnas to the duck-billed platypus. It really is a place like no other on Earth. However, many of these remarkable animals are also amongst the most threatened on the planet. So people here have had to come up with some extraordinary ways to protect them. And there is one story that particularly interests me, that of the quoll.
They're just a fantastic animal. I mean, look at that. Very cute. Want a few more? There you go.
As you'd expect, the northern quoll can be found in the Northern Territories of Australia. It looks rather mouse-like, but during breeding it develops a small pouch for its young, and it is in fact a marsupial. And this marsupial is a meat eater. but that fact could be its downfall. In recent years, it's been bumping into a new kid on the block, the cane toad. The cane toad is originally from South America, but since being introduced to Australia, it's been devastating the wildlife across that continent. It's a classic case of an invasive species. The problem for the hungry quoll is that this toad is also poisonous. The glands on its back release a lethal venom. The cane toad population has spread so quickly across Australia that the unsuspecting quolls have been poisoned in their thousands. Here at Territory Wildlife Park near Darwin, quolls are brought to live in captivity as a safeguard against extinction. An animal behaviour expert, Jonathan Webb, has a radical idea to teach these quolls that cane toads are off the menu and stop them eating themselves to extinction.
When I came up with this idea, people said, "You're crazy, it's never going to work. You can't train quolls to avoid eating cane toads."
Jonathan's unconventional idea starts with making cane toad sausages. They use bits of the toad which aren't poisonous, but crucially add a drug to make the quolls feel mildly sick. They hope that the quolls will learn to associate that sick feeling with the taste of cane toads and will avoid live toads in the future. Next morning, the bowls are all empty and the quolls are feeling the effects of the drug. They're rather quieter than usual, but that will only last a few hours. It's time for a second helping of the specially prepared toad sausages. Jonathan will be hoping for a rather different result when he checks the quolls' bowls in the morning.
We've got 6 animals to check today. They've all eaten a bait once and become ill, and we've offered them the bait the second time, and we're hoping that they've all rejected the toad bait. Oh, excellent. It hasn't been touched. Fantastic. I'd say that one's toad trained.
She hasn't touched this one, she's trained.
Excellent. Hasn't been touched.
But it's not all good news, as some of the quolls would appear to have flunked the test.
Well, this one's taken the bait, which is disappointing.
So this little fellow will have to re-sit. More cane toad sausages for him. He's a marine iguana. The only lizard in the world that gets its food from the sea. The seaweed on which he totally relies only grows in abundance here because of the nutrients brought by the Cromwell current. Once in the water, he has just 30 minutes to find food. Any longer than that, and his muscles will seize up and he'll drown. For like most reptiles, he can't handle the cold. Chilly water isn't a problem for a warm-blooded cormorant. She can swim in it all day, but can only hold her breath for a few minutes. He, on the other hand, completes his whole half-hour trip on one single breath. His flat face and sharp teeth make him an efficient seaweed cropping machine, but with the clock ticking, he must eat fast. The cormorant, having caught its fish, goes back to the surface. One last mouthful, and it's also time for the iguana to head for home. But to stop his muscles from seizing up in the cold water, he must get back quickly. So he could do without the attentions of an inquisitive sea lion. Dry land is now just 30 meters away, but the biggest hurdle is still to come. The surging water now fights against him. He's out, but he stayed in the cold so long that he's lost his strength. And he's made it. Danger past. And that's just as well. Because he is a father. And he's guarding some very precious eggs. For the last few weeks, females, one after the other, have visited him and entrusted him with their offspring. Some are now almost ready to hatch. There are several clutches on the leaf, and those at the top, the most recently laid, are barely a day old. But in the jungle, there's always someone out to get you. This wasp is a specialist hunter of frogs' eggs. It's noticed the wriggling tadpoles at the bottom of the leaf. He mustn't move. The youngest eggs are the most vulnerable, and he can't guard them all. But these tadpoles are not as helpless as they might appear. Incredibly, the unhatched tadpoles can sense danger, and the oldest and strongest wriggle free and drop into the stream below. The eggs at the top of the leaf, however, are still too young to hatch. And now the wasps know they're there. But the male's back looks very like the youngest cluster of eggs. And that seems to confuse the wasps. Using his own body as a decoy is a huge risk. The wasp's stings could kill him. He's managed to save most of his young. He'll have to remain on guard for another 2 weeks. But in the jungle, just surviving the day can count as a success. Somewhere along this seemingly barren stretch of sand, there is food in great quantity. Cape fur seals. There are around 10,000 of them here. Adult seals are large and strong. But their pups are neither. The youngsters are closely guarded by their mothers. A hyena, however, knows to be patient. Sooner or later, seal mothers must return to the ocean to cool off. A single seal pup could feed a hyena and her family for days. But finding food is only half the battle. It now has to be carried back. A jackal is here too. And it's not alone. If a hyena loses her kill, she'll have nothing with which to feed her cubs. The jackals won't follow her very far from the coast. It's too hot for them in the desert interior. Only by making these long journeys can brown hyenas manage to survive in the middle of the Namib. This is a giant Galapagos tortoise, and it's climbed all the way up the flank of this great volcano and is here wandering around the rim of the crater. But why should it come to such a bleak and inhospitable place? Tortoises, being reptiles, can't generate their own body heat internally, as we do. Instead, they must get it from their surroundings. And these particular ones have come up here to warm themselves on the hot volcanic rocks among the jets of steam and sulphurous gas. They live longer than any other animal on Earth, well over 150 years. They weigh up to 1/4 of a ton and have shells over 1 meter across. They really are giants. Having a body encased in shell obviously brings problems, and one of them is how do you mate? Making love in a suit of armour is not easy. But the males have a very ingenious solution. The underside of their shell is concave, so it fits neatly over the domed top of the shell of the female, who is somewhat smaller. That doesn't make clambering on top of her any easier initially, but once the male is up there, it will reduce his chance of slipping off. The two shells fit together as neatly as 2 spoons. So mating can begin, and once started, it can go on for a long time. The blue shark. It travels over 8,000 kilometers a year, riding on the currents supported by its broad wing-shaped fins. This one may not have eaten for 2 months. But the currents can carry promising traces of fatty oils from many kilometers away and will lead it to its next meal. After days of travel, the smell of food gets stronger. A dead whale recently struck by a ship. This could be a real feast, but the blue shark must be cautious. Great white sharks, 10 times heavier than a blue, are highly possessive around a whale carcass. Great whites are eager to feed on energy-rich whale blubber, which we now know forms a major part of their diet. Once the great white has had its fill, smaller sharks, like the blue shark, tackle what's left of a carcass. As the oils from this dead whale spread more widely, more and more blue sharks appear. carcass will be stripped of its blubber. Then, no longer kept buoyant by its oil, it will sink into the depths below. The blue, with its reserves of fat replenished, can now survive for another 2 months without eating. Northern Australia has the highest tides in the tropics, which expose vast areas of shoreline. And here lives a truly extraordinary species of octopus. Octopuses are marine animals. They live and breathe underwater. At low tide, most octopuses will be imprisoned in their rocky pools. But this is no ordinary octopus. It's the only one specially adapted to walk on land. It pulls itself along using the hundreds of tiny suckers that line its arms. Hunting for crabs, it walks from pool to pool. Apart from a rather startled fish. This one is empty. So the octopus moves on. A rock pool may seem like a safe refuge. But the octopus's suckers enable it to move just as stealthily in water as out of it. Nowhere is safe when this octopus is around. The Kalahari Desert. Here, food is more plentiful, but it's hidden. A pangolin. She can collect food that others can't reach. A keen sense of smell enables her to detect the presence of ants and termites in their nests beneath the sand. Her sticky tongue, some 30 centimetres long, enables her to collect them from deep underground. And she's being carefully watched. The drier it gets, the deeper the termites live. Many are way beyond the reach of even a pangolin. But not of an aardvark. It's the world's largest burrowing animal. Its sense of smell is extremely acute. Shovel-like claws and powerful legs enable it to dig down to depths of 5 or 6 meters. A full-grown aardvark needs to eat about 50,000 termites every day. Termites are highly nutritious and full of moisture, and they can be collected here year-round. Aardvark are usually nocturnal. But the fact that this one is foraging in daylight is a sign that food is scarce. Recent droughts in the Kalahari have led to low termite numbers, and as a consequence, aardvarks here are close to starvation. Changes in the world's climate are affecting many of Africa's animals. It's predicted that in the next century, southern Africa will warm twice as much as the global average. The future will be bleak for those that cannot adapt fast enough. The most aquatic of all freshwater turtles is found in New Guinea and a few rivers like this one in northern Australia. The pig-nosed turtle. Its feet have become completely transformed into flippers and are of little use on land. And indeed, the pig-nosed turtle rarely comes ashore. But turtles are descended from land-living ancestors, and so they still need to breathe air. Females also have to return to land in order to lay their eggs. Pignoses nest during the dry season, high up on the riverbank. If turtle eggs get wet, the babies inside them will drown. At least, that is the case with most turtles.
An egg for a turtle represents a huge investment, as it does for any reptile. So turtles go to a great deal of trouble to make sure that they lay their eggs in safe, dry places. So you would think that dropping one into water would be a disaster. But watch.
fully developed baby turtle.
And it's come from an egg which, as far as we know, is unique in the reptile world. It can not only survive being flooded, it actually requires to be submerged in water in order to hatch.
The struggle to survive in our green seas can have far-reaching consequences. Once a year, one particular meadow in Australia is transformed. Around the first full moon of winter, an army materializes. Spider crabs. For the past year, they've been feeding in deeper waters. Now they march across the seagrass plains. Hundreds of thousands of them. They clamber over one another. Creating great mounds. Nearly 100 meters long. They're not seeking mates, neither are they laying eggs. They have come here in order to grow. Like all crabs, their bodies are enclosed in a hard, unexpandable shell. So to grow, they have to break out of it. And that allows the soft one that has developed beneath to expand. It will take days for the new shell to harden. Its legs are so limp that they won't work properly. The crab is unprotected and in great danger. A smooth stingray. It's huge, about 4 meters long. It wants a soft, freshly molted crab that will be easier to eat. The crabs try to stick together. But now, disturbed by the ray, they're scattering. A newly molted crab is too weak to keep up with the crowd. The safest place is right in the middle of the pile. That is why they have all assembled here. There is safety in numbers. But the vast majority of the crabs escape, and within the next few days they will be ready to return to the depths and resume their lonely wanderings in search of food. This is no graveyard, but the triumph of 100,000 crabs successfully molted. Blacktip reef sharks. They are bigger and more powerful than trevally, but not as fast or as agile. The hardyheads are well aware of them, but so long as they stay just out of reach, they have little to fear. But now the sharks and the trevally join forces. Together, they enter the shallows, each looking for a chance to attack. The trevally make the first move, and the hardyheads take refuge again in the waves. And this is what the sharks have been waiting for. Surging forwards, they chase the hardyheads out of the water, beaching themselves in a daring bid to hoover up their prey. The hardyheads that escape the sharks swim back out to deeper water, but into the mouths of the trevally. Now the receding waves help to pull the sharks back into deeper water. The seabirds get their chance. It's a feeding frenzy in only 10 centimeters of water. Over half of all animals in the open ocean drift in currents. Jellyfish cross entire oceans, feeding on whatever happens to tangle with their tentacles. Some can grow to 1 meter, even 2 meters across. And when, by lucky chance, they encounter a patch of sea rich in plankton, their numbers explode. It's such a successful strategy that jellies are one of the most common life forms on the planet. But among the jellies, and looking somewhat like them, is a rather more complex and sinister creature. The Portuguese man-o'-war. It floats with the help of a gas-filled bladder, topped by a vertical membrane. With that serving as a sail, it maintains a steady course through the waves. Long threads trail behind it, some as much as 30 meters long. Each is armed with many thousands of stinging cells. A single tentacle could kill a fish, or, in rare cases, a human. But among its lethal tentacles lurks a man-o'-war fish that feeds by nibbling them. Whilst this fish has some resistance to the stings, it must still be extremely careful. Most other fish are not so lucky. Tentacle has caught this one and reels it in. It's already paralyzed. Specialized muscular tentacles transfer the victim to others that digest the catch, liquefying it with powerful chemicals. Eventually, all that is left is a scaly husk. This voracious man-o'-war may collect over 100 small fish in a day. They will sit there looking perfectly innocent and suddenly steal your glasses, jump onto you and steal your glasses, and it's really quite frightening. The sequence that left the biggest impression on me is a group of macaques that live in a temple. And visitors come, but they are the bosses. And these old boys can't wait to get their hands on the latest tech. And then they bargain. What are you going to give me? And you've got to give them food. A banana? How dare you? A bar of chocolate. That's better. And they will exploit you in a way that you couldn't believe possible. It's quite shocking. Around 80% of the Earth's animal species are insects. They play a vital role in the food chain, essential to many birds, fish, and other animals. They fertilize and aerate the soil, and of course they pollinate. Without them, life as we know it would cease to exist. So, with only 3 places left on my ark, it would seem wrong not to include at least one. Butterflies lift the heart. There are thousands to choose from, but this butterfly house has one of my favourites. I've selected it for its exquisite beauty. This is a Priam's birdwing butterfly. It lives in Western New Guinea and to the islands both east and west, and also down into the northern part of Australia. Birdwings have some of the largest of insect wings and are very sought after by collectors. The name comes from their rather bird-like forewings. The male Priam birdwing has a striking pattern of vibrant green and black. The females are larger and less colourful, but just as delightful. These butterflies are able to fly long distances high above the forest canopy. But these beautiful insects only live for about 10 days as fully formed adult butterflies. If I take him on board my ark, I'm not going to have him for long. But in the 10 days of his short life, he'll bring such joy that I'm delighted to have him on board. Ah, doesn't want to leave. Off you go. Off you go. Okay, stay on board.